talking about Jacksonville, and these two games are now infamous in Komet history. We'll start with the first one. Now, you're coming in off a long road trip, or a long bus trip from Florida. You get into Jacksonville early in the middle of the night. Can't have that morning skate. You're in a building you've never been to. This is the first time the Komets have played in Jacksonville, but you were still familiar with these guys. You played them back in October at the Coliseum. You swapped games. The Komets 4-3 on the 25th of October in overtime. You go to overtime the next night, but Jacksonville bets you at 6-5. And those games were a little chippy. Now, you can't think there's any carryover possible all those months later, but I remember those two games at home. It was two intense games.
Yeah, if anybody remembers, I think the 9-game stint that Garrett Ross had here, he was in Jacksonville. He scored the overtime winner that night, and they had a team that could always mix it up, and they had an identity that they were extremely hardworking. They didn't have the Brady Shaws or Sean St. Amonts or the Sidlowskis. They just had guys that would put their head down and go to work, and those are typically the toughest teams to play against. So they had an identity where we knew it wasn't going to be easy, but if we did what we would normally do, then we should be able to take care of business. But it was one of the hardest working teams that we played against all year. And so if you look at them in the standings and you say, okay, we just lost 3 games in a row, this is the team to turn around against. I mean, you can't kid yourself. You still have to go through and do the work. And we found out real quick that this was not an easy team to play against.
Yeah, Jacksonville, they were out of the playoffs at that point. They still had a chance to get in, still with a lot of time left, but they were up against the wall. So every point was important to these guys. So, again, going back to the goaltender situation, you had 3 goaltenders. Dylan Ferguson unable to go on that whole trip. So you go back with Patrick Munson and played very well, but he was also facing Adam Carlson, a guy who was also very well known and very good as well.
Yeah, we saw Adam in Rapid City the year before, Manitoba kid that, not a Manitoba kid, but he had a contract with Manitoba. Just an unbelievable goalie, and it's the same thing. You show me a good goalie, we'll show you a good coach, because they're going to give your team a chance to win every single night. And so he was exceptional this night. No different. It's what you come to expect from a guy like that, and I think he stood on his head, and he gave him a chance. And it was frustrating. It was the same thing. It's like, okay, we see the Christopoulos of the world, and now we just saw Ken Appleby, who was in the NHL for New Jersey, last year, and now we're going in and seeing Adam Carlson. Is there a goalie that exists in this league that'll let a few soft ones in for us? That's what we were starting to get, and evidently it was not the scenario. Yeah. So it was, when you talk about frustrations mounting in Toledo, it was that first loss, we couldn't beat them, and then on the Sunday with Gorush, we couldn't beat them, and then we see Appleby, and we outshoot a team almost 8-0 in the first period. We can't beat them. At this point, it's starting to get frustrated because we're doing everything right. We're just not getting the results that we normally be used to in the first half of the season because we were such a high-scoring club, and we're just running into hot goalies at this point.
So Jacksonville gets on the board first in the first period, but Brady Shaw would tie it up at the end of the first period. So you're tied 1-1, and you're going into the second period again. It's what this whole road trip was about. You're tied going in, so you feel good, but you're just unable to get that lead.
And again, too, like the amount of opportunities we had
in that first period, absolutely.
Jeez, and I remember that the goal, it was Binkley to Sidlowski, who sauced it over to Brady. It was beautiful, and you're thinking, well, why can't we do that every shift? But we were doing good things all the time. We just weren't getting rewarded for it, and you know what's going to happen? Well, they're going to score, and then we're going to end up chasing from behind, and it was that frustrating feeling again of we couldn't catch a break at this point.
So, going to the second period, again, Jacksonville scores, you're behind, but Komet fashion, Brett McKenzie ties it up in the third period with 13-11 to go. So we got a tie hockey game. You guys have played a lot of games in overtime, so this is not going to be a big deal for you going and playing 3-on-3 because you've already done it twice already on this road trip.
Yeah, 100%. And we felt very good going into overtime. We were a very confident group that we could defend and we could score, and so we were feeling okay. If we can just get into overtime, we'll have a good chance. And there was a lot of that game where, pressure going in. Oh my God, we got to score to tie it up. And they were clamping down. I think it went off McKenzie's skate to go into the net and tie it up. But once we got there, we were feeling, we're really confident in the fact that we could pull something like this off. And just to set the stage, we lost Brady Shaw right before Christmas, the last 2 games in Christmas, the following 6 games after, and he was in Cleveland, and we didn't see him. And I think we went on an 8-game slide or something. And at that point, we were 1-11 without Brady Shaw in the lineup. And the first game he came back, we beat Indy in the new year, and we started to climb back out of it. And he was a huge player for us, huge impact player right away. And so we knew that he was going to make a difference. And so I don't know if I'm going to ruin what your whole point is here, getting into overtime, but we had traded chances, and we want to talk about this frustrating thing. Frustrated for 2 games against Toledo. Then we fly down, and then we lose a frustrating game to Florida, and they're jumping in our bench, and we're taking the long bus ride. Now, guys are irritated at this point that we haven't been able to have the success. And so what we see in overtime from our vision on the bench is Dijon Mingo target Brady Shaw. A running leap, we see him leave his skates, and we targeted his head, and he's down and out, and he's cut, and he's bleeding, and this is our best player at this moment offensively, and we just welcomed him back after a long absence, and there he lay motionless on the ice, which is a helpless feeling from a coach, and you don't worry about the game at that moment. You just worry about the player's safety, and everybody knew it wasn't good because Brady's a proud man and he would never stay down unless he was seriously hurt. So there was a lot of fear on our bench as, hey, this is a prime time player, and we're upset that there was no penalty even called. And so we're looking, and the refs got nothing, and they said they've got nothing. He's got blood coming from his face, and we're saying, how did you not call a penalty drawing blood from the head? And so at this point, frustrations have reached an all-time high. We were losing games where we were at this point. We're traveling. You're not in your own bed. You were antsy, and you were very, very frustrated, to say the least.
So you're on edge.
It's winding the gear. Right before that thing pops, you're just winding it up. And so, we ended up, Bowden's had an unbelievable goal. I think McKenzie was on the ice as well. Unbelievable goal. It was a relief to win. And okay, against Jacksonville, and maybe that little bit of pressure was off, but to me as a coach, I had steam coming out of my ears, because you got to go back in the next night and you're without your best player. And so I remember me being emotional, which was one of the things I've been told you got to kind of control as a coach, and it was tough to see somebody you care about, somebody who had a big impact. And I remember, these guys, tomorrow, this is going to be war tomorrow. And so the emotion from the staff and everybody, and you could just tell, I remember Stewart saying, I'm going to be suspended after this game. I remember he would say that. And I said, well, I didn't talk him out of it. So at this point, you could tell they see their friend, and he's on the table. He's getting stitches. He's got a bubble like this. He's just, you hate to see somebody in this position. And it really resonated with us, and you could see around the room how much of an impact it had, and guys were silent, and they were just, it was enough. Time for us to rally the troops. We've got a tough enough team. We've got a good enough team. Let's stop losing. Let's start showing up and protecting each other. And I remember that speech. I said, we're starting Sid. We're starting Jenks. We've got McKenzie. We got Stewart. We got Hauser. This is who's starting. We're starting Munson. So even though we didn't, but we knew that it was going to be that kind of game the next night. And, we go home after, or we go back to the hotel, kind of collect our thoughts, and we try to just wind down a little bit. And we were hoping for a good break going into the next day so we could get it all off our chest.
So you get the win. We will stop it right there. We'll come back and talk about everything leading up to the next night in Jacksonville.
We knew that the players wanted vigilante justice. We wanted revenge, but we also wanted the 2 points. You could just tell. Like, these guys wanted it. Like Hauser, I might have had to lick up some drool. Like, he was wanting that opportunity.